Welcome back, everybody. The rest of the field coming at you here for a weekend edition. Just doing a draft today. My name is Jason Gorman, Chris Weiler, Deke, but not Ben Christensen today. Ben is out on a golfing vacation. Where did he go? Pinehurst? Something like that. Nice legendary course guys weekend here on Memorial Day weekend. So Ben's taking advantage of that, but he's not with us today. We are going to do something special. Maybe you can tell by backgrounds and attire. We are going to do an all-time Milwaukee Brewer draft. It's just the three of us here today. I think we'll get by without Ben, but we'll see. Maybe today won't be as funny. I don't know. I guess the viewers will have to tell us. You can find us on YouTube, obviously. Also on Twitter at @rest_field. Instagram, you can search the rest of the field and we will pop up. Give us a follow, subscribe. Like the certain thing, we're putting a lot of content out there. So different poll questions, also these drafts. We ask for you, the listeners, to go on and vote so that you guys kind of pick the winner of the draft. So today we will have a poll of just 3 teams. But today what we are going to do, let me share my screen here once more, is we are going to do an all-time Milwaukee Brewer draft. It's just the 3 of us. We are going to extend it to 5 different rounds. So there will be the same amount of players picked. Well, I guess 1 less because we don't have 4 teams, but we're going to do 15 players total, no positions. Really the only parameters are that we're doing it as the Milwaukee Brewers. So not the Milwaukee Braves, not the Seattle Pilots, but when the franchise became the Milwaukee Brewers, that's pretty much the only guideline. They have to have played for a team that was called the Brewers. Any positions, it doesn't matter how long they were with the Brewers. If any of the guys want to take them, that's totally up to them. And then we will put together our squads. We'll put it up on Twitter and you guys can do the voting. So we did a random draft order as usual. Chris is going to be the number 1 pick, followed by Deke, and then I will be the 3rd pick, but it will snake back towards Chris again. So I'll have back-to-back picks, and Chris will have back-to-back picks, and Deke will have 1 pick at a time in the middle. So with that, I will we'll get it started here right away with Chris. Are you guys excited for this? I personally am a huge Milwaukee Brewer fan, probably bigger than any of the Wisconsin sports. So I'm pretty excited to do this one. What are you guys thinking?
Well, you should be the most excited. You definitely are hands down the biggest Brewer fan of all of us, that's great by you. Respect to that. For me, it'd be a Bucks draft. I'm not sure what, my favorite team is the Bucks, but not sure where Chris lands on the Wisconsin spectrum.
Right.
Chris, probably UW Green Bay, something like that.
All right.
Yeah, something different. You're right. Jason's by far the biggest Brewer fan. I think he gives us updates before Twitter gets updates. So, we always got the inside tracker, which is always nice. But I'm excited to do it. Some good players that part of our lifetime.
Yeah, here's some names we don't particularly know too much about, I would guess, but
I think there'll be a couple. I think there certainly is going to be some recency bias. Not maybe the last couple of years, but the last maybe 5 to 10 years. It'll be interesting to see how many players, are 15 years plus from when they stopped playing. I think there'll be a lot, maybe just because of our age and who we grew up watching. But there's certainly players that I know, and I'm sure you guys know, or at least researching this, have come across a few names that stick out as maybe guys you didn't watch, but you've heard about, and now you've seen some of their statistics, I guess, or certain accolades they may have gotten as they played as a Brewer. So with that, let's just get it started. Chris, number 1 pick overall, very important pick. Who are you going with?
Yeah, for the first pick in the draft here, we got my wavy cap on. We are going to go with Robin Yount.
Okay, yeah, pretty standard there.
20 seasons with the Brewers. I'm not sure what kind of stats you guys got, but he was part of the great 82 team. I could read into some of his things, but just all-time legend for the Brewers.
He has a statue, so that's all you need to know, right?
Yeah, he's got a statue. He became a full-time big leaguer at the age of 18. He played shortstop and center field. So he He's an all-time leader in games played at 2 different positions. So he's racked up a lot of different things. He's part of a lot of top 50 categories. He's just one of the all-time greats, not only for the Brewers, just baseball in general. So he's a WAR stat that, if you're familiar with WAR, it's wins above replacement, and he's at 10.5.
I think he's second to only Braun. Is that what I've seen before?
So let's see. Let me read this. In his 1982 season alone, would have qualified him for inclusion on the top 50. Baseball Reference estimates that his worth of 10.5 WAR that year tied for 14th best by any player since the end of World War II. So he had an awesome 82 season, an awesome career. We could go on and on about Robin Yount, but certainly the best, one of the best, if not the best, Milwaukee Brewer of all time. So
we caught him later to the end of our childhoods. Maybe not so much Deke right in his prime, but the rest of us, like he was I was probably only like 8 or 9 years old towards the tail end of his career.
Yeah, Deke, when you were in your 20s, what was it like watching Yount play?
It's great. Actually, I mean, not that bad, but I did see a few more years of his prime years than you guys did. And I will say that, the Brewers have had some success over the years after Robin Yount, but he is, in my opinion, the best Brewer that there is that I've ever seen.
He's part of the franchise too. You'll see him on broadcasts. He'll be up in the booth. He does the fantasy camp stuff. For adults that are paying. Great mustache. Yep. He's a great guy to be part of everything. And I think whether you're part of the game or outside it, and just as a fan, everybody has good things to say about Robin Yount. It's not one of those situations where, like a Gary Sheffield who left the organization with not the best reputation. But anyways, with that, let's go to pick 2. Deke, you have the second pick. Who are you going with?
Yeah, so quick fun fact too, Robin Yount, my uncle actually his company built Robin Yount's house in Milwaukee in the 80s. It's fun fact.
We have access whenever we want?
Well, he no longer resides there, but when he was a player, he had built the house in Milwaukee that he stayed at the time. So
gotcha.
Fun.
All right. Number 2 pick, Deke, your first
my number 2 pick, again, I'm going to go with, this is big time recency bias, but I think he'll actually rival Robin Yount when it's all said and done, and I'm going with Christian Yelich.
This is huge, only because you're wearing the shirt of another all-time Brewer player, and I thought for sure that's where you were going to go is Robin Yount, but Christian Yelich, tons of recency bias there, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, he's won an MVP. He was on pace to win another MVP had he not got hurt. And I think his numbers were good enough as they were last year to win an MVP. And I think the fact that he got hurt just kind of kept him from winning that. But awesome player, fun to watch. Yeah. We've all seen him live. He's been clutch in big moments. It'd be fun if he can carry this team to a World Series, something.
He reminds me of Ken Griffey Jr. because he doesn't have some of the athletic plays, but he's just so effortless and smooth, when it comes to everything in the game. So I think that's what I like about him.
Fair enough. I don't think there's going to be, unless somebody goes really off the wall with a pick. I don't know that you can go wrong here. I would have picked Paul Molitor there, but that's just going off of other people's rankings and a little bit more history with the team. And so I guess with that, I will take Paul Molitor with my first pick. Hard to see here. My screen's really, really small. Let me share this up there so everybody can see it. See how round 1 went. And there it is. So we went Robin Yount, Christian Yelich, Paul Molitor. I'll be bringing it back with the 4th pick. then Deke, and then Chris. But you can see that there. That's how round one went. Just a quick little snippet. Paul Molitor stole over 400 bases, nearly 2,300 hits in Milwaukee. Great player in the Midwest because, there's the tie-in with the Twins as well. And so a lot of people from both sides of the river.
Grew up in Minneapolis, too. High school in Minneapolis.
Yep. And I think a lot of people feel strongly about Molitor, whether you're a Brewer or a Twins fan. So I think he coaches in there in some fashion, doesn't he? For the Twins?
Molitor was the Twins manager, but he got released a couple of years ago or last year.
Oh, did he get released? Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, so, this is kind of tough because there's a lot of names out there that are worth drafting. I think, you can say what you want about them, but I don't think I can pass him up. And that, of course, is Ryan Braun. That's who I'm going to go with. Been with the organization, drafted by the organization, came up, was a Rookie of the Year, MVP. Yes, there were some steroid issues. To me nowadays, I'd be shocked when guys are good and that wasn't the case. That they weren't on steroids. So he did his suspension, his comeback, has still been a decent player, has filled his role. He doesn't play every day anymore, but I think he'll go down as one of the all-time greats. I think people will kind of they won't forget the steroid thing. They'll just kind of bypass it in what they think of his overall career. So I'm going with Ryan Braun there, and that's going to take us back to Deke for his second pick, 5th overall.
Do either of you guys have any update or know if him and Aaron Rodgers have made amends from their broken relationship with all that? Or I never really ever heard anything or see. They used to have a restaurant together, and Rodgers broke off of that, and then I never have had an update since. You guys
I haven't heard anything. Rodgers came out and said that he absolutely trusts Ryan Braun and that he's for sure, innocent and all that when everything went down with the steroids. And then obviously we all know what actually happened at this point. But yeah, I don't, since then you don't hear much about them together. It's weird because it's a close-knit community in terms of the sports superstars in the state of Wisconsin, even though the teams aren't all in the same city.
Yeah.
But, Rodgers and the Bucks, like Giannis and other Bucks players, and going to Packers games, and you see that all. And we have 3 very competitive teams in terms of making playoff runs and things like that. So they always get the limelight when they are going to watch the other team's games. You just don't see it. They're both California guys. I want to say they're still working together, Braun and Yelich and Rodgers and that, with the different things that they're doing in California. But
philanthropic.
I don't know that they're necessarily out there as, hey, we're buddies. They may be friends, but I don't think they make it as publicly known, which is fine. Doesn't really change much of anything. So, Deke, who are you going with your second pick, 5th overall?
Absolutely. So I will be going with the Bash brother of Ryan Braun for a few years would be Prince Fielder. Awesome. I think he's a sort of a mythical, to be quite honest, just because it was how he came up through the organization. And then I remember the first play, he was actually playing for the Beloit, him and Ricky Weeks and Corey, JJ Hardy. And they came up to play. I lived in Appleton, Wisconsin at the time, and they came up to play the Timber Antlers. And the first at bat, he just mashed a home run, and I was like, we're going to the World Series. So that's what I thought.
Yeah, he was
So
a big
anyway.
part of the playoff run. Breaking the 26-year drought of not making the playoffs. Him and Braun and some other players that, who knows? We'll see if they get mentioned here in this draft. Prince was a larger than life. I mean, he wasn't overly tall. I think he was only 5'10", 5'11", if that. But a massive human, and he put a hurting on the ball. Fun to watch. I think more than anything, watching him run the bases was just as fun as watching him hit, because he would scamper. He had a little Fred Flintstone twinkle toes and his big belly flop slides, and he's right up there to me with Gomez in terms of running the bases. Maybe not as frustrating as watching Carlos Gomez run the bases, but it was entertaining nonetheless. Great pick there with your second. So you went two more recent players with Christian Yelich and Prince Fielder. Chris, what are you following up Robin Yount with? Or who, I should say.
Yeah, Deke really threw a wrinkle in this for me, because I thought somebody like one Braun. I know Braun would go, but Fielder, Yelich. I mean, Yelich definitely deserves to go, but he just hasn't really. He didn't do anything as a rookie here, so I was surprised to see him go in front of Braun. But man, it puts me. I'm on a half of all old guys, which nothing wrong with that, Deke. But I just think sometimes people like that young guy, somebody to vote for and recognize.
He's living vicariously through the players on his team.
Completely.
That are all younger than.
Very obvious. It's very obvious.
Midlife crisis.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
just give me one, and then I'll show the screen and show how second round.
I think the number one I'm going to go with is Cecil Cooper.
Okay. I figured that. I thought about taking him with one of my picks. Let me share my screen so we can see how this is shaping up. So there's round two. Ryan Braun, Prince Fielder, Cecil Cooper. Chris is going to bring it back with the 7th pick, his 3rd overall. But that's how everything is shaping up as of right now. If you don't know, Cecil Cooper, he received all 3 4th place in the thing that I'm looking at. The rankings, he was awesome. He was in Milwaukee for 11 seasons, 77 through 87. He averaged more than 20 home runs and 90 RBIs per season, 5-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger, and 2-time Gold Glove recipient as a Brewer. So that alone ranks him as one of the best. He finished in the top 5 of MVP voting 3 different times. So that I think that alone says enough. So with that, Chris, have you had enough time to maybe figure out where you'd go with that next pick, your 3rd pick?
I'm going to skip the obvious one. I think, am I going to do that?
Little indecision.
No. Well, Craig Counsell's up there on my list of all-time Brewers, especially as a manager. But we're going to stick with the old guys. We're going to go with Gorman Thomas. No relation to Jason.
Yeah, no relation whatsoever, unless my dad flashes his driver's license, which when the name, I don't know if it's still that way. I'd have to look at my license, but with the last name being first, my dad's biggest thing, he'd love to go to Miller Park and go to Gorman's Corner, if that's still even there, and he would pull out his license. He's met Gorman Thomas a couple times, and so he pulls that out, and his license would say Gorman Thomas, and yeah, my son is also a Thomas Gorman, so there's a little tie-in with my immediate family now, but I'll have to do some digging and pull up some highlights when my little TJ is old enough to really start getting into the Milwaukee Brewers. I think it's a great pick. I'm interested. You don't have to throw it out yet. I'm interested to know what other names you were thinking about there, but that takes us back to Deke with the 8th pick overall, his 3rd pick. Deke, where are you going?
This is tough because I think I'm going to pick a player that has the stats, but I'm not sure it will get me votes. But I got to do it. I'm going to pick Jeff Jenkins.
Wow, Geoff.
think he's up there. I think he's actually behind Braun and Yount in many categories. I could be wrong, but I don't have these stats in front of me. So I know at one point in his career he was up there in a lot of the all-time categories for the Brewers, but
he was something. He was fun to watch, honestly. We had some dog, manure teams back in the day, but
teams.
Yeah, I'm keeping it PG for the kids out there. But
well, he was on the tail end. When he was kind of finishing up is when the new crop of Brewers were coming in to take over. And, as a Brewer fan, and for me at the time, and I think a lot of other Brewer fans, they felt sort of bad for him because they're like, well, crap, Jenkins has always been probably one of our top two players on these dog manure teams. And now he's kind of on his way out when we're going to start to get pretty good, and he doesn't really get to see the fruit of that labor. So I think that's how I felt about it. But
he had 10 years with the Brewers, and I was part of the 26-year postseason drought. Hit 212 home runs, 704 RBIs, only 37 errors as compared to 91 outfield assists. He did appear in an All-Star game. He's top 10 in a number of different categories. He looks a lot like Brett Favre. A lot of things that are going for him here in the state of Wisconsin. And I do believe that after he left Milwaukee, he went to Philadelphia, or at least was there in 2008, I want to say. And that was when the Brewers did end their playoff drought. And the Philadelphia Phillies, where Jeff Jenkins went to play, and I believe won a World Series with them. He may have been just a bench player, but that's who the Brewers played in the first round after they ended that 26-year postseason drought. They took on the Philadelphia Phillies, lost in that series, and then Phillies went on to win a World Series. So he's had a great career, awesome player. I think you may get votes because of that, because people do remember him. So
I would agree.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad pick.
I hope. Can I try to make it short? But I do have a Jeff Jenkins story that is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with this, but go ahead.
So this is from a friend of mine, close friend of mine that obviously I trust, but it comes from another person to him to me is how the story goes. So Jeff Jenkins ends up dating a friend of my friends in Milwaukee when he's with the Brewers. And at the time, I think he was the highest paid Brewer. He had a pretty sizable contract. And she was over his place, wherever he lived. I don't know if it was apartment or whatnot, but she was over his place, woke up in the morning, and this is where I'm not sure if this is how this goes, but she supposedly said that he had left a pay stub out, like in the kitchen or for something.
Yeah.
And it was for a check, and the check was payment to Jeff Jenkins from the Milwaukee Brewers for $57,632, and that was a bi-weekly check. So to put that into perspective, if that is true, you think about that, and it's just, again, it goes back to one of those things that for a person like me or us three, it's kind of hard to fathom that, but just pretty wild.
You're not making that kind of cash?
Nope, I'm not. I am not. But again, this is back in probably 2004, 2005, right? So what they could look like now, obviously you can sit down and do the math, but just thought that was an interesting story.
That's awesome. I'm going to take that, that same era, and I'm going to go ahead and make the 9th pick overall my third pick. I'll throw the board up so we can see how the third round went. I'm going with Ben Sheets, arguably the best pitcher to ever come through the franchise. There's another pitcher, Teddy Aguirre, who's up there that I never really watched, or at least don't remember. So I don't even know when he played with the Brewers. So it's before my memories. Sheets is one that I definitely grew up watching. A number of different all-star appearances, especially when we were bad. It was, you kind of got, when you were a bad team, you usually got a pitcher that got to go to the all-star game, and Sheets was that guy. He did have a pretty great season. Let me pull up my stats
Nasty
here.
12-6 curveball.
Yeah,
That guy
he had
loved to throw the curve.
Yeah, he had the big old knee bender. 2004, he had an awesome series, or I'm sorry, he had an awesome season. And 2.7 ERA, 237 innings. Could have won a Cy Young, but a lot like a number of different baseball categories, your team has to be good or at least decent in order to win that type of award. And I don't even remember the other players that were up for it in the National League, but he'll go down as one that I always remember. I saw on social media the game where he had, was it 18 strikeouts, I think? He was pretty fun. He was pretty fun to watch. He always had
I think
that
it was against the Braves.
He's
it was
also
against
a
the Braves.
USA Olympic kind of legend too.
Yeah,
If I
gold
remember
medalist.
right.
Yep, he was. Yep, he was part of that as well. So happy to have him on my squad. I'm gonna keep it rolling here. Gosh, this is where it starts to be like, oh, do you follow the rankings or do you go with
Like
players
Fernando
you like?
Vina.
You want me to go with Fernando Vina?
Him and Jenkins.
He took
Him
a
and
lot
Jenkins
of
are the boss hogs of the dog manure teams.
Chris kind of stole somebody I was hoping that would maybe last all the way to me, and that was Gorman Thomas, obviously, just because of the name. But I think I think I'm going to go with another player. I guess same era as well. I'm going to go with Jeff Cirillo, third baseman. He was pretty good. He had a franchise leader in batting average at 307, second in on base percentage in 383, sixth in OPS at 831, all-time or an all-star bid in 1997. He's just kind of one of those cornerstones of I guess of my childhood growing up watching the Brewers. So I'm going to go with Jeff Cirillo in the with the 10th pick, and that is my fourth overall, which is going to take us then to Jeff spelled the right way, unlike Jenkins. So that's going to take us back to.
My dad always called Jeff Cirillo the Tony Gwynn of the Brewers.
The Tony Gwynn of the Brewers, a
Wow.
great hitter. Nothing like that jumps off the page, but just kind of a steady, seems like just a steady player. So with that, Deke, it's going to take us to your fourth pick, number 11.
So I'm excited about this pick. I'm glad he got to me. I think you need a pitcher on your squad. I mean, I guess you don't have to again in this scenario, but I'm going with Raleigh Fingers.
Okay.
I thought he was going to have to go sometime here.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those guys that, his entire career, the majority of career, I don't know how long his career was or how many years he spent specifically with the Brewers, but, he's got great stats with the Oakland A's as well. So one of those things that he's not always considered a Milwaukee Brewer. He is to us, but he's Hall of Famer with multiple teams. So
I believe he was the closer on the World Series teams and the 80s teams that were good. Early 80s,
I mean,
I believe.
you were the only one that was really
Living,
alive
yes.
in 82. So
yeah. So
I mean, it's a name that's
played more of a
synonymous with
closer role.
Yeah, great pitch. I mean, great player, and certainly one that the Brewers tout as one of the all-time greats. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that pick. Take us to Chris here to round out the fourth round. Who are you going to go with?
I'm going to go with I kind of wanted to – I do have a pitcher. Okay, so we'll go with Greg Vaughn.
Greg Vaughn. I thought you said you wanted a pitcher.
Yeah, well, I changed my mind last second. Couldn't go without the Vaughny. Just reminds me of Euchre so much.
Yeah, Greg Vaughn, another player grew up watching. He was probably one of my favorite players because he just hit a ton of home runs. So fun to watch. He had that interesting batting stance where he was kind of pigeon-toed, feet pointed towards each other, or toes pointed towards each other in the batter's box. Another one, I think, awesome pick. Tough to go wrong anywhere on this board, really. It's just a matter of getting the guys that you want. So I like that one with Greg Vaughn. So there's the board after round 4 when Jeff Cirillo, Raleigh Fingers, Greg Vaughn. Chris is going to finish out his team with the 13th pick. Then it will go Deke and then myself to finish out this draft. So, Chris, who are you going with?
I just want to say something about Greg Vaughn real quick. He was a trendsetter. Let's be honest. In the 90s, he was either home run or strikeout. Okay? Now every guy is home run or strikeout. Let me tell you, that guy set some trends.
Not as bad as, was it Jose Fernandez that was setting all-time strikeout records while he was with the Brewers? I want to say he had the last Jose Fernandez. I don't think anybody's going to pick him. He had the last home run in County Stadium.
Hernandez.
Was it Hernandez or Fernandez?
Yes.
Hernandez.
Well, Fernandez was the late Miami Marlin, the young pitcher.
Yeah.
Jose Hernandez, being a Brewer player, he played for a few teams, but yeah, huge strikeout numbers, kind of an all or nothing type player. So, not to get off track here, but Chris, 13th pick, your last pick to round out your all-time Milwaukee Brewers squad.
Yep. So this, I know I'm going to ruin a couple picks or at least names out there, but it's just coming down to some big-time names for Brewer fans. Or do I just rock and go CC Sabathia just because he made a huge push? He's not really a Brewer, but he's just a legend. Let's just put it that way. You know what? I can't do it just because I feel bad and I want the draft. So it's going to be between Burnitz and Surhoff. And I have to go with BJ Surhoff.
BJ Surhoff. All right. I don't think that's a bad pick. Yep. Let's see. We get this put in here. So that rounds out your team. He was the first overall pick in the 1985 draft, and he was playing with the big league crew by 1987. So came up really quick. The outfield, third base, also was a catcher. So let's see. In 1995, he hit 320, which was, I guess, considered his best season. 13 homers, 73 RBIs, and then he left. He went to the Baltimore Orioles, and actually, I think had a bit of a power surge. I remember him being more of a power hitter after leaving the Brewers. But Chris rounds it out with BJ Surhoff. Did you have anything to add there? Otherwise, we'll go to Deke to round out his squad.
Nope. Let's go to Deke.
Cool. Deke, who you got with the 14th pick, your 5th and final?
Yeah, this is tough. I agree with Chris. It comes down to this last pick. There's a few guys out there that you're like, man, I really wish I could pick him, but I'm going to go with hopefully snag a couple legendary love of the Brewers team votes, and I'm going to go with Jim Gantner.
Yeah.
Gantner. 2 N's in there, I believe, right?
No, just one. Maybe. Wait.
It's just. There's an N.
Yeah, 2 N's.
Okay.
And it pains me also because my favorite Brewer, I don't think of all time, is going to be picked. I'm going to wait for Jason, and you alluded to that in a previous episode, I believe, right? With your What's on Deke's Dome? I don't think so. Maybe. Not sure. I mean, was it Carlos Gomez? No. Oh, okay. Because I remember the Houston Astros hat tied into Carlos Gomez. It's not my favorite Brewer of all time. I'd be interested to see if Jason picks him here. I guess it would be a stretch to pick him, but after that, maybe you guys could take a couple more shots at it.
JJ Hardy?
No. Jason can pick his pick, but...
Yeah, so give me 1 second. My fan turned off, and I'm roasting in my garage. Oh, look at the fans there.
Oh, 1 pick left, and he's got to get up, fight.
No,
I mean, yeah, it's like mid 80s.
Couldn't turn in his draft 80s. Card.
Mid to upper 80s here in Georgia, and I can't deal with it here in my garage that is not insulated or air conditioned or anything like that. So, I don't know if I'll get away with this. I guess it's totally up to you guys. I kind of had this sneaky pick for my last one the whole time. I didn't know if anybody was going to try this earlier, but I'd love to pick Bob Uecker with my 15th. Didn't necessarily play for the Brewers, but certainly an all-time Milwaukee Brewer. So it's totally up to you guys if you'll allow me to take him. If not, I can pivot to a player, but I guess I'll leave it to that before we talk about anything. Are you guys going to allow me to take Bob Uecker?
When you put up the PowerPoint, did it have any specifications of all-time players on that? If it just said all-time Brewers, you know what? I can let that go. I think I love creativity and getting the gray line area going. So, all-time Milwaukee Brewers, dang. So he kind of did sneak that one in. So I'll let it go. Deke, I'll leave it up to you.
It's whatever. It's fine. I have faith in our voters that they realize that he wasn't a player. Jason has the opposite faith that he's going off of popular.
Yeah, I don't think you can talk about the Milwaukee Brewers without Bob Uecker. I grew up not necessarily going to games because of where we grew up in Marshfield and being 3.5 hours away. And so if you did go to a game, it was maybe one weekend a year and you got to see a couple games and that was it. So I grew up listening to my dad's, it was some type of silver boombox that he had in the garage when he was doing work and I'd be playing out in the yard or something. And it was just the voice. That was summers in Wisconsin, right? Is in some way, whether it was your radio or somebody else's, you could hear that faint voice of Bob Uecker talking about Brewers baseball. And that's one of my all-time memories growing up in Wisconsin. So that's why I had to try to pick him here. Even though he didn't play for the Brewers. So, Brewers baseball without Bob Uecker at some point.
There's very few baseball fans or Brewer fans that don't mute the TV and just turn on the radio while watching the TV to listen to you come in. He's definitely a part of like Wisconsin kind of legendary or just culture, if you want to put it that way. Just what a legend.
And the thing is so many people know him not even as the Brewer a radio announcer because of what he did in wrestling to start his career. He was this entertainment guy that, was one of the announcers or hosts of wrestling back in the day and grew his celebrity through that and then came on with the Brewers, but then also had his stint in the Major League movies where he was Harry Doyle, the announcer of the Cleveland Indian teams in those awesome movies. And was really part of why those movies were so funny was a lot of the things that he did up in the press box as the announcer for those teams. So I'm glad you guys are letting me do that. If I had to pivot out of it, I probably would have maybe gone Giovanni Gallardo. Maybe Carlos Gomez is right there as well. Trying to think of anybody else.
Like Richie Sexton.
Boom, you got it, Chris.
Oh,
that's my boy. Total Richie Sexton, favorite Brewer of all time.
Deke's karaoke name, Big Sexy. But there's other names out there.
Nice stroke. First base.
I probably would have gone with my favorite Brewer there, and that probably would have been Ricky Weeks. Not the best player by any means. Even at his position, just somebody that I always liked. The only Milwaukee Brewer jersey that I ever owned was one that I got right before he left the team, and they finally moved on from him. But yeah, Ricky Weeks would have been my John Jaha.
Yeah. Lyle Overbay.
Oh, Lyle, yeah.
I mean, even guys like Jonathan Lucroy.
Corey Hart
out there. Yeah, Corey Hart.
Trevor Hoffman didn't play for him long, but legend.
Legend set his record with or hit that number of saves with the Brewers.
George Scott, Teddy Higuera.
Turnbow. You think of guys like Turnbow and Axford. Not all-time greats, but just names that we've grown up with. Lorenzo Cain.
I like Turnbow.
Yeah, Turnbow with his gigantic baseball pants that he used to wear. Cal Eldred, Dan Plesac.
Yeah.
A lot of names out there. I think we could go on for quite a while. This could be a much bigger draft if we really wanted it to be. But let me throw the board up there again now that it is finished, so we can all see that. I think this one was fun. So Chris went Robin Yount, Cecil Cooper, Gorman Thomas, Greg Vaughn, B.J. Surhoff. Deke in the number 2 pick went Christian Yelich, Prince Fielder, Jeff Jenkins, Raleigh Fingers, Jim Gantner, and then I went with Paul Molitor, Ryan Braun, Ben Sheets, Jeff Cirillo, and rounded it out with a non-player, Bob Uecker, all-time announcer there, is in the Baseball Hall of Fame as an announcer. So I think definitely deserves his due. But who do you guys like here? Do you guys like your squad? Do you see any other squads sticking out as maybe a front runner other than your own?
I like Deeks, to be honest with you. His late 2 picks really solidified the young guys. I might get a few older votes, but yeah, I'm in rough shape.
Chris, not too confident.
No.
I guess it'll depend on our viewers and who they remember, right? It's, Chris, not a ton of recency bias there. So, BJ Surhoff and Greg Vaughn as the most recent players on his squad.
20 years ago.
But people that we grew up knowing, right? And
Right.
Deke's team with Yelich, Fielder, Jenkins, he's got 3 more recent players. I got Braun, Sheets, and Cirillo that were, are more recent, and Paul Molitor more a name that people all know. So we'll see. And maybe I steal some with Uecker. Maybe I lose some with Uecker. I guess it depends. Certainly go on to Twitter and let us know what you think. I'm going to start wrapping it up unless anybody has some final thoughts here.
No,
Nope.
This is fun.
Just hoping
Awesome.
they get back to playing baseball. Praying.
Right? Yeah, this was we decided to do this one today instead of a different draft that we mentioned during episode 6 because Memorial Day is kind of synonymous with baseball. So is the 4th of July, but we decided to do an all-time Brewer draft here over Memorial Day weekend. We wish we were watching the Brewers play. We certainly hope everybody out there is enjoying their weekend. But when you do have time, when you're trying to beat the heat, if there is sunshine where you're at, go on to Twitter. Let us know what you think. Let us know who you think won this draft, who we left off that certainly should have been voted on. Give us some ideas for drafts in the upcoming weeks. And then we're gonna hop on TV here and watch the match 2.0, I guess you could call it, with Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning taking on Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady. We're glad we were able to do this for you without Ben, unfortunately, but he'll be with us next week. So with that, we are the rest of the field. My name is Jason Gorman with Chris Weiler, Deke, but not with Ben Christensen this weekend. Find us on Twitter @rest_field and on Instagram, the rest of the field. You're watching us here on YouTube. Give us a subscribe. Find out when we're releasing new episodes and things like that. But with that, we had a blast. We had a lot of fun, and we're going to bring you some more stuff midweek. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks for tuning in. We are out.